Well, and I think that's part of what makes this book so urgent and helpful, but also potentially confusing for some people. Now, the book itself is not confusing, but the topic is why you're writing on it. We know that forgiveness has been often weaponized by church leaders as a way of silencing critics, as a way of sentencing victims back to their abusers. And it's and it seems to me one of the more heinous abuses of the gospel that there is, that we could be said, okay, forgiveness means, and I don't know, Tim, if it was it naivete, or was it actual further abuse of authority, of somebody saying, hey, your husband's been sexually abusing your children, but he seems really sad about it now. You wouldn't want to take your husband and father away from his kids, so just forgive him, and let's assume this is going to be, okay going forward, because he really feels really bad about this. I don't know if it was naivete, or if it, because they didn't understand the dynamics of sexual abuse,
right, or
if it was an effort to try to cover up. I don't know. I can't put myself in that situation.
Okay. You're right. No. I mean, it would have been both, because on the one hand, it definitely was a naivete about how sin works and about how sexual abuse works, and the idea that a person could just repent. I mean, back in those days, for example, I think they realized that if a person was an alcoholic, they couldn't just repent and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to change, and not need extensive help, and not be in a position of addiction where they really had lost the ability to exercise their own volition. I think in the 60s and 70s, that was understood when it came to drugs and alcohol, but not yet sex, I don't think. In spite of the fact that sex is a physical thing, the sexual arousal and all that it's a physical thing, and so I think that was part of it. But I must say that's naive, and that was you might say that's a little bit more excusable, but it's not. There definitely was a desire just to sweep things under the rug and not deal with the
bad publicity. The
reputation problem,
and also a hope that maybe in some cases there could be restoration, or the family could stay together. I'm sure there was some aspect of that too. But it's interesting that you contrast it with alcohol, because that was widely recognized as a huge problem for the same reasons by the mid to late 19th century. So that was just at the forefront of evangelical and even broader Protestant ethics. That's of course the origins of prohibition, but it was a lot of the same dynamics. Husband's drunk, comes home, beats wife, apologizes when he's sobered up in the morning. Oh, he feels really bad about it. No big deal. And then, of course, it just keeps repeating. So maybe, I don't know why there wasn't a recognition of some of the other dynamics, but you're right. There was about a 100-year head start of recognizing the problems in those dynamics with alcohol abuse.
Well, I have to say, though, that alcoholism was not as big alcoholism was not as shameful as this. Alcoholism was bad.
Okay.
But this was this is the reason why they wanted to sweep this under the rug, I'm sure.
I see. Okay.
I'm sure of that. So when you say what percentage, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think we should hide behind the naivete. There was definitely a naivete, no doubt about it. I experienced some of it. It took me a while to realize just how just with like pornography, for example, when autoeroticism, as a counselor, as a pastoral counselor, you deal with men who have a pornography habit, and certainly when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was kind of naive about how easy it was for them to stop. And then, wow, they seem to be really repentant, really sorrowful. I don't think they're kidding me. They weren't lying to me, yet they just can't seem to stop. So, I mean, it slowly dawned on me as I got older that this is something that is both, they are responsible for it. It's still wrong. And yet at the same time, they've given away their ability to get control. I think there's some place where Lewis says, that when you get to the place where you are drunk, you no longer have control.
Yeah.
And yet it's not, you're not innocent, because in a way you gave away that control bit by bit by bit, and you knew what you were doing. But by the end, you couldn't do anything about it. And that's the same thing that happens with addiction. Is in the beginning you do it and you are responsible for it, but then when it eventually you are no longer able to stop it. It's just going on, and then you need a whole lot more massive intervention. And then you got to remember the victim. The other point is, I think the other thing where people were naive about it was the idea that victims could forgive and not be traumatized by it.
That it would go away, that it wouldn't linger.
Yeah, the victim would be forgive and forget.
Yeah,
and that was also tremendous naivete.
Right.